Okay, what we're going to be looking at, apparently we have done 1 and 2 on your Hartford for convention, right? We're going to keep on looking because we're going to look at this next one, number 3. It says Congress shall not have the power to lay an embargo for more than 60 days. Okay, what are these Federalists salty about? What are they upset about? Well, that was the first thing. I'm looking at the embargo. What were they upset? Look at it. Congress shall not have the power to lay an embargo. What are they upset about? The embargo is what happened to our economy. It declined. So when they're saying Congress shall not have the power, what is that doing to the government's control? Is that increasing it or decreasing it? Decreasing it. I want you to think, did Federalists want to decrease the power of the federal government? No, so I'm going to put this here. They are decreasing the power of the federal government. Are they being hypocritical here? Are they being hypocritical? Yes, because they used to believe that we should have a big government, and now they're saying the after, okay? So Congress shall not have the power without the concurrence of 2/3 of both houses to indirect the commercial intercourse between the United States and any foreign nation. Is that like the same? Have they flipped on their beliefs? Yes. And so will people listen to them? Next one, Congress shall not make or declare war or authorize acts of hostility against any foreign nation without the concurrence of 2/3 of both houses. Are they doing the same thing, decreasing the power of the federal government? Yes. These 3. So, why are they doing that? Are they in office? No. Who is in office? The Democratic Republicans. They're upset with them, and this is why they want to decrease their power. This next one, it says no person who shall hereafter be naturalized. What does it mean to be naturalized? Become a citizen. So you are an immigrant, right? No person hereafter should be naturalized who is an immigrant should be eligible to be a member of the Senate, the House of Representatives of the United States, nor capable of holding of any civil office under the authority of the United States. We've talked about this before. What party would immigrants go towards? Democratic Republicans. So if they're saying they should not be able to hold office, what are they trying to do to the power of the Democratic Republicans? Okay, so this is a Federalist attempt to do what to the power of the Democratic Republicans? To decrease or limit the power, right? Haven't they done this before? Haven't they done this where they tried to? What was the name of those 2 acts? Alien and Sedition Act. They're up to the same thing again. Last thing, no, the same person shall not be elected president of the United States for a second time. How many terms did Jefferson serve?
2.
How many did Madison serve?
2.
How many did Monroe serve?
2.
Okay. Nor shall the president be elected from the same state 2 terms in succession. Think about it. It's called the Virginia dynasty. Where do you think they're all from? What are they trying to do? Are the Federalists trying to attempt to decrease or limit the power of the Democratic Republicans? Yes. So I could just put for both of these, arrow and arrow. Do you think anybody's going to listen to the Federalists when they do this? No, because we just had the Battle of New Orleans and everybody's all hunky-dory that we did not lose, right? But what was the irony of the Battle of New Orleans? The war was already over. So when the Federalists come out with all of these complaints, we're going to see this. Anybody listen to them. And the end result is because of these Debbie Downers, because of their amendments that want to decrease the federal government, which is opposing their values where they want to have a big central government, the Federalist Party will die. And that is the second part of 33. All right. That is the second part of 33, that they will die. So how many parties are we going to have? 1. And so y'all picked up, I think on question 40 on your study guide, it is going to say, explain the phrase, the era of good feelings. Why is this a misnomer? So how many parties do we have now after the War of 1812 because the Federalist Party has died? 1. So it should be an era of good feelings, right? We have 1 party. But I don't know if y'all understand what misnomer means. I'm just going to pick on Luke. Luke's really tall. Luke, how tall are you? 6'3", really? Okay, you could be 6'3", I agree with it. You're taller than me. Okay, but if I were to call him tiny, is that a misnomer, mislabel? Yes, he's far from tiny, right? And so misnomer is looking at this period that we're going to be looking at right now, and they're going to say that it's going to be a period of nationalism. But that is a misnomer because we are going to look at stuff that is going to lead to the rise of issues between our country and within our country. And so what I want us to look at next is this the result of the War of 1812. We're going to see that there's going to be respect for the United States. We didn't lose the war, right? So that's why they're respecting us. Nationalism is stimulated, which you should have seen on question 34 about on question number 34, it says, what economic independence will the War of 1812 spur? It's going to spur industry. Because can we ask the British to send us weapons so we could fight them? No. We're also going to see the death of the Federalist Party. I already talked about that. We're going to see new leadership. These 3 leaders, Calhoun, Clay, and Webster, from 1812 beyond, all the way to their death in 1852, these guys keep our union together by compromising. The moment they decide to die, our nation, I know they decide to die, that's probably not their decision. The good Lord calls them in his name to heaven. But we're going to see when they die, it's 1852, and we are going to be marching to the Civil War in 8 years later because there's no one compromising. We get the position of Great Britain. We're going to see this, most people say it's the second war for independence because we defeated the British. Did we really defeat them? No, they just surrendered in the treaty again, right? We're going to see the Indians, because of this, are going to have to deal with us. And the last thing is 2 treaties. The first one I want to go over, you should have seen on your study guide, was Rush Baguette. Like, let me just draw what's going on. So y'all know there's like all these Great Lakes, right? I cannot draw them good. Okay, they look like that. There's my United States. During the war, where did we invade? Canada, because we wanted to prevent Canada from getting in the hands of who? The British, so they could invade. And we also thought Canada would be a great basis, right? But amidst the war, most of the war is going to be done on the Great Lakes with their boats and our boats. Okay, so here are those boats. And so, did the Treaty of Ghent actually formalize or end anything? No, it was just an armistice. So Rush Baguette, they're going to rush to the Great Lakes and they're going to bag up all the armaments. So can we fight again? If we bag up all the armaments, can we fight again? No. That gives us a formal declaration of the end of the war, which was number 35 on your study guide. Another thing on your study guide, which is for your future stuff. Your future self. Go to number 54. We still have issues with the British, right? The British are still in these what? What are these things over here on the Great Lakes? They're in the forts, because who are they trading with? The Indians. They are arming them for their furs, right? And so what the Treaty of 1818 is going to do is going to formally establish a boundary. It is going to establish the 49th parallel as the boundary between Canada and the U.S. So can the British be on our side, on our forts? Can they be trading with the Indians? That resolves one of our other issues. The other thing, there's 3 terms to this treaty, and I know it's called the Anglo Convention something, but it's also known as the Treaty of 1818. Over here, this is called Newfoundland. In Newfoundland, there's a lot of fisheries, And we just agree that we're going to share the fish. Okay? So y'all got the second term. The other term comes to Oregon. We are both going to have joint occupation. So we're basically both what? Sharing. Is this sharing going to go over well? No, we're not going to share our fishies well. We're not going to share Oregon well. So eventually we will go to war for Oregon, but we're going to be in a war with Mexico. Okay? So do y'all understand the Treaty of 1818 that you had to write on 54? Y'all got all three parts? 49th parallel, sharing the fishies in Newfoundland, right? And then joint occupation in Oregon. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you should have gotten a chart that looks exactly like what we did last time, right? Doesn't this look familiar? Okay, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at this time period after, I'll get it, don't. We're going to be looking at this time period after the War of 1812, and historians have traditionally labeled this period the era of good feelings. We are going to be looking at what is going on, and we are going to determine, is it really an era of good feelings if we only have one party? Okay, so our first issue that we all have, and there's some that go out of order. Our first issue is the rebuilt the capital. The War of 1812, which the United States and Great Britain, the foremost military power, fought to a draw, inspired an outburst of nationalist pride. And after the burning of the capital, which we saw in the Chesapeake battles, by the British troops, a more handsome national capital began to rise from the ashes of Washington. Nationalism or sectionalism? Nationalism. This is the rebuilding. This is how we get the White House. So all we're going to put on that left-hand side is we rebuilt the Capitol with our modern day buildings. So the White House comes out. How many of you have ever been to DC and seen like the Supreme Court building? That was built at this time. The House of Representatives, the Senate, everything that we see, the modern foundation for DC today was built at this time. Okay. Is there any sectionalism to this? No. The next one is the reviving of the bus. And I know that looks weird, you're thinking of a school bus, but here I am talking about the Bank of the United States, and we're going to take this in way more detail really soon. We're going to see the Bank of the United States is going to be rechartered, and the bank will soon become the focus of public resentment. What does that mean? Are people happy with it? No. I know. Okay. I have erasers. Okay. It's going to become a public resentment. So is this nationalism or is this sectionalism? Sectionalism. And we're going to talk about why it comes public resentment. Like its predecessor, it was a private profit-making corporation. Right? It served as the government's financial agent issuing paper money. So this is paper money of back then. All of this paper money had to be backed in gold. So you could take this paper money up to the bank and they were like, I would like my gold. But do you think people wanted to carry around that gold? No. And what we're going to see, the reason why it's nationalistic is this. It's the government's financial agent. It will pay off the government debt. So put that under nationalism. But we're going to talk about why it is also sectionalism. Okay, so what we're going to see, it was charged with issuing this paper money to make sure that it was backed. It had real value. So all of these dollars had to have gold. I need to go around and okay. All of this had to be backed in gold. So is that going to restrain the banks? Yes. So this is why it's going to lead to sectionalism, because the local banks had to have real value backing them. And did they like someone coming in and making sure that this had value? No. Because then what happened to their business? Were they able to expand their business, or was it contracting their business? Contracting. The Bank of the United States was supposed to prevent the overissuance of money. Because if they overissued these dollars, what happened to the value of them? They went down, right? And what would happen to the value of your property if this money went down? Your property would lose value. And so this is why the local banks did not like it, because it prevented the local banks from issuing too much money, and it required them to hold enough gold for paper money. So is this going to lead to sectionalism? Yes, those banks are going to be upset because of this big bank watching what they're doing. So we said this was nationalism because what? They paid the government's debt. But it was sectionalism because these local banks did not like what? The bank controlling their paper money. So although the bank was a centralized thing supposed to create nationalism, it will create sectionalism, and we're going to see certain banks dislike it because it is monitoring. We've already talked about the war hawks. We saw this on question 20, that these were men from the South and the West. These men wanted to go into the War of 1812. Was that something that everybody wanted to do? No. So where would I put that? That we're going into the War of 1812 because these war hawks. Sectionalism. So I'm going to put the war hawks under sectionalism because they wanted us to go to the War of 1812. We've already done this in our last note, so we're not going to put much notes here. Did everybody in the United States want us to go to this war? No. What was the group of people who did not want us to go into this war? New England. What party were they from? Federalist. So also, I'm just going to put it's the war hawks from the South and the West are encouraging the war on sectionalism, and the Federalists were against this war under sectionalism. The next one is the Star Spangled Banner. Do I even have to read this? Nationalism or sectionalism? Nationalism. We know that we talked about the Battle of Fort McHenry last time, right? And because of that, this is now just a song that unites the nation. So that's nationalism. The expanded Army and Navy. The Army was expanded to 10,000 men, and a Navy was increased to protect the American coast shores. Nationalism or sectionalism? Nationalism. We're protecting our coast. That is nationalistic. Why would we have to protect our coast from what we've seen in the War of 1812? What have we seen the British do? Seize our ships and impressment. That is why we need a navy to protect our shores. All right, this one is called westward expansion. I want you to have your study guide out, because on question 43, I'm going to answer this for you. But I want you to pay attention first, and then we'll talk about 43. But it says and I want you to first tell me, is this nationalism or is this sectionalism? The onward march of the West continued. 9 frontier states had joined the original 13 between 1791 and 1819. With an eye on preserving the north-south sectional balance, most of these states have been admitted alternately free or slave. At this moment, we're at 11 free and 11 slave. New immigrants and farmers from the Old South that exhausted their land moved west. The western boom was stimulated by cheap lands, the building of roads, and steamboats. Nationalism or sectionalism? Nationalism, because what's happening to the U.S.? It's growing. Does anybody want to make the other argument?
Sectionalism because it's Democratic Republican.
Oh yeah, but we're one party, right?
Yeah.
But it's this whole thing between free and slave, and that's going to become sectionalism soon, right? So what I would say, it's nationalism because we're expanding our nation, but it's sectionalism because if I draw out our nation, we're moving this way, right? This is north, and they are all free. And then as we're moving south, they all have what? slaves. Is this dividing our nation right here? Yes. So that is also sectionalism. So question 43 says on your study guide, how was the sectional balance maintained? The North-South sectional balance. Most of these states had been what? Admitted alternately, one free or one slave, not to give one side the balance to their cause. Is everybody good with 43 now? Okay. The next one we're going to look at is the Navy defeats the pirates of North Africa. The Navy further covered itself in glory when in 1850 it administered a thorough beating to the pirates, plunders of North Africa. Nationalism or sectionalism? Nationalism, we're protecting our commerce. So keep your study guide out. I'm going to look at 41 with y'all. But I'm going to talk 41 you have not done, okay? So the Panic of 1819. Much of the good feelings went out in 1819 when a paralyzing economic panic descended. Again, 43 is asking for the cause. What I'm going to read right now, it's its effects. It brought deflation, depression, deep bankruptcies, bank failures, unemployment, soup kitchens, and overcrowded pest houses known as debtor's prison. This was the first national panic since Washington took office. Many factors contributed to the catastrophe of 1819, but this is where the answer is for 41. The cause of it was over speculation in frontier lands. That is for 43. Do y'all know what over speculation means? They were trying to buy it low to sell high, right? That's what people do with stocks, right? They buy low because they're speculating that eventually in the future they could sell it for a higher price. So all of a sudden, all of these guys were buying that land at very cheap prices, but were they getting to make a profit off of it? No. And so when they didn't make a profit, can they pay back? So we're going to see that they were over speculating on frontier lands. It says the West was hit the hardest because many of the branches of the Bank of the United States had to invest in buying frontier lands. Question 42 says, what actions did the Bank of the U.S. take? And then how did the Western debtor view it? The banks, because of this over speculation, here's how they acted. They foreclosed on mortgages of countless farms. You're going to be doing a reading next Thursday. Andrew Jackson is one of these people who has suffered through this. So in his eyes, many Southerners view the Bank of the United States as a financial devil. Is this nationalism or is this sectionalism? Okay, because what area of America caused this panic? The which area? The frontier, which is the what? West. Am I beginning to see, yes, we're one political party, right? Am I beginning to see the emergence of different sections? Okay, what are some of those sections? The South, what else? The North and the West. They all are different, and we're going to talk about them because they're all going to interact with these nationalistic things and have different views. One of the things that y'all saw in your study guide was Henry Clay's American System. This was number 38, and it asked you for the 3 parts. The American system began with a strong banking system. This is the first thing that you should have on 38, which would provide easy and abundant credit. Clay also advocated a protective tariff. That is number 2, with which in Eastern manufacturing would flourish. Revenues gushing from this tariff would provide funds for the third thing, a network of roads and canals. So make sure those are correct on your 38. Looking at this, is this nationalism or is this sectionalism? Nationalism. He's trying to unite our economy and make it stronger. So he's providing a banking system for those businesses. He's providing a tariff which those businesses can be protected. And now he's filtering the roads and the canals to help them get their resources in and their manufactured goods out. These new arteries would flow foodstuff and raw materials from the south and the west to the north and the east. In exchange, a stream of manufactured goods would flow in return direction, knitting the country together economically and politically. So Clay's American system was an attempt to unite the nation, right? And y'all said this was nationalism. But what we're going to look at is each individual section. So I know on the front side we were missing the tariff, right? Let's go back because I finally found our tariff one. The tariff. We're going to see after the War of 1812, the British began to dump the contents of their warehouse on the United States, cutting their prices below the cost in an effort to strangle the American war baby factories. This should have been number 37. Oh wait, the second part of 37, why was it created? This is the answer. A lot of y'all just told me it was a protective tariff. This is the reason why it was created. Okay? A lot of you on your second half, where it says on 37, why was it created? You told me protective tariff. That is what the tariff is. Right? So, a nationalist Congress responded by the passing of the tariff of 1860, the first, and this is what you should have in the first line. What it is, to define. Here is the defining of it. It is the first tariff in American history instituted primarily for protection, not revenue. This tariff protected northern manufacturers. So they're going to be manufacturers, right? This tariff is going to protect them. Who is it not protecting? The South and the West. What does a tariff do to price? Increases it, causing people to buy American. Are the Westerners and the Southerners going to be happy with this protective tariff? No. So this protective tariff was supposed to be nationalism, right? To force people to buy American. Is it really nationalism? No. What two areas is going to oppose this tariff? The South and the West, because what is going to happen with price? It's going to go up. So I know y'all fixed 37. I'm going to now answer issues on 38. 39, I mean. The buildings of roads and canals. A lot of y'all had the first part of it, that it was going to knit our nation together, these roads. Okay? But there was a very primitive state of our transportation, and it proved very difficult to trade during the war. An outcry for better transportation, rising most noisily in the poor world West, led to Congress passing a $1.5 million law for internal improvements for the states. We're going to see that Madison then vetoed this bill. That was the second part of 39. What happened to this bill? Madison vetoed it, so the states were forced to forge on, were forced ahead with construction of their own roads. So how many of you have ever heard of the Erie Canal? That was created by New York. We're going to start to look at the Cumberland Road, the Overland Road. All of these were created by their own state legislators. So, where do most of that stuff? Is it in the South, the West, or the North? It's going to the North to the West. All of these roads and canals are going from the North to the West. So, it's supposed to be nationalistic, right? So we could trade our goods and services. But what we're going to see, the New England in particular disliked this because it would drain away its population.
Hey, how we doing?
Hi.
I'm just looking for a student, but he's not in here. Sorry for the interruption.
That's missing. Okay. So looking at this, New England in particular strongly opposed the federally constructed roads and canals because such outlets would further drain away the population and create competing states in the West. So yes, these roads and canals were going to tie our economy together, but did everybody like them? First off, does New England like them? No. Look up at that map. Who else does not like them? The South, why does the South not like them? They're not connected. So looking back at this, I'm telling you the stuff that is going on in the 1810s is leading for the foundation of our Civil War. It is the tariffs that will lead to the Civil War. It is the roads and canals. It is the banking system. It is westward expansion. We are all going to have opposing views, the North, the South, and the West over this. And it's these things that set the foundation, that help the nation ferment into causing a war. And many people just think it's over slavery. There's other issues that break the camel's back. So do y'all got why it's sectionalism? Okay, we're going to move on. I'm going to do Supreme Court with y'all later. Manufacturing increased. Americans took great pride in the factories that recently mushroomed forth as a result of the self-imposed embargoes from the War of 1812. Nationalism or sectionalism? Nationalism, hooray, we are producing American. But now can we make an argument for sectionalism? What is going to be created to protect those industries? So is that going to, yes, it is nationalism, but does it also lead to sectionalism? A lot of these programs that are very nationalistic, like Clay's American System, that was supposed to create a stronger economy, is actually going to divide our nation. Okay. American art and literature, and a lot of y'all put this in number 36. This was the only thing y'all had at 36. That what did nationalism manifest itself in? Y'all put national literature, but were there other things that we could put here? The building of the Capitol, the Star-Spangled Banner, right? I could put in Clay's American System. But we're going to be looking at American literature and art. We're going to see Washington Irving and James Fenimore Cooper. These are two guys you probably know because of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. You've heard of that? Have you heard of The Last of the Mohicans? Okay, both of those guys, and they are also going to write the history of New York. Okay, both of these guys are going to write these books, and they're going to be the significant first writers of importance in American history because they actually use American scenes and themes. Also, we're even going to get painters, which we'll eventually look at, that are going to celebrate native landscapes, such as the Hudson River School of Art. I do not know why there's a question there. That's the name of the School of Art. Is this nationalism or is this sectionalism? Nationalism, and what I would put is they're celebrating American scenes. That was not even open. American scenes and themes. This is why it's nationalism. Okay, this is why it's nationalism.
What's the Sleepy Hollow legend?
The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's one of those good like Halloween things to watch. It's always on around Halloween.
Are you watching it?
No, I don't like scary movies.
Yes, you do or you don't watch it?
She doesn't watch it personally, but you can watch it.
You can watch it if you like scary. I'll have bad dreams. Okay. Monroe's Goodwill Tour. And emerging nationalism was further cemented by the Goodwill Tour Monroe took as he, early of 1870, ostensibly to inspect the military defenses. He pushed northward deep into New England and then westward into Detroit, period. In Federalist New England, he received a heartwarming welcome. A newspaper announced that this was an era of good feelings. So is this nationalism? Everybody's cheering on Monroe. Yay, Monroe. Everybody's accepting him, right? We don't see any naysayers or booers out there. So this is nationalism because he's accepted. Okay? But a newspaper announced this was an era of good feelings. This happy phrase has been used to describe Monroe's administration. Unfortunately, the era of good feelings is a misnomer. What do we say misnomer is? Mislabel. Because this period was troubled with issues over the tariff. Did everybody like the tariff? Who liked the tariff? The North. Did the West and the South like the tariff? We also had issues with the bank. Who hated the bank? What area? The West. We also had issues with internal improvements. Who disliked the internal improvements? The South and the North. And we also had the issue of the sale of public lands causing a panic. Eventually, sectionalism will crystallize, despite us being one party, because we're also going to see issues over slavery. So yes, it's both, right? On this one. I know we have a little bit more to go through. We will finish that up next time.